Hi, Fernando. Let's look at your essay about online communication. Let's say nowadays online communications is being most frequently used rather than meeting in person. Personally, I strongly believe that the benefits of online communications can easily overcome the drawbacks that it can create. This essay will discuss the issues and it will use examples to demonstrate points and prove arguments. All right. The second two sentences are good. The first one had a little error I didn't really like. You said online communications is being most frequently used rather than. This was awkward and not entirely grammatically correct. So just simplify a little. How about nowadays online communications is being used more than meeting in person? That would have been a nice, simple way to do it, clear. Or you could have said online communications are more preferred, or no, it's the same thing, really. How about this? Online communications are used rather than meetings in person nowadays. So some sort of, but this most frequently felt a little strange. So just a couple of different options there. The rest of it was fine. Firstly, there is ample evidence that online communications has come to improve our life, and one of the biggest benefits is how easy and fast it can be compared to face-to-face communication. You don't need this comma here, okay? Get rid of it. For example, the company IKEA has given to each employee a personal mobile phone to use while working in order to save valuable time in communication matters and make it more efficient. So this is unclear. What is it? What is it making more efficient? That's not really very clear to us. Let's say to use while working in order to save valuable time in communication matters. And how about and be more efficient? So in order to save and in order to be more efficient, okay? Rather than make it more efficient. Therefore, many companies, okay, and workplaces are incorporating this technology, and this is largely because it takes less time and effort. Okay, so you said they have a mobile phone. Are they calling each other? Like, I'm not really entirely clear about that. Because this is about online communication, so not necessarily phone communication, unless you mean that they're using different like web apps or something like that. So on the right track. I'm not 100% clear how your example here fits in with the topic because you said a mobile phone. I mean, maybe if you had said a smartphone for video calls and things like that, or remote meetings, or to use a company app. If you had made some sort of mention of that, then this whole thing about online communications would have seemed more relevant. Does that make sense? It would have been more relevant to the online communication thing. All right. But of course, even phone calls are not face-to-face meetings, so you're close. I just wanted you to be a little more on target with what this is talking about. Secondly, online communications can be done even if each participant or work partner is overseas. This advantage has become essential for some institutions which are expanding to other regions of the world. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, I see here a massive online platform was created by the WHO to maintain doctors from all over the world in contact and updated. Okay. Therefore, if this online platform had not been created, doctors would not have been notified about the progress of the virus because face-to-face meetings were banned by government's restrictions. Wonderful sentence. Great grammar here. Look what you did. You had this great conditional here. Wonderful. Third conditional. Really good. Advanced grammar. You did it successfully, so nice job. To conclude from the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that online communication can offer a lot of benefits to workplaces compared to the disadvantages it can generate. In the future, it is predicted that online communication will increasingly grow. Okay, so what's really helpful is if you could have included the task, like how it was written, because I can't remember off the top of my head if this is a to what extent do you agree, if this is a discuss advantages and disadvantages. I can't remember it. So if you had included that, that would have been really helpful. The thing that I am confused about here, or not really confused, I'm a little concerned about, is that in your introduction, you mentioned the drawbacks it can create. Then here you said, et cetera, compared to the disadvantages it can generate. So you've introduced in both your introduction and your conclusion that there are disadvantages to this online communication, yet you never talk about any of them. You never mention them. And so it feels a little one-sided. I do want to see what the topic, how it's written, to see if you needed to talk about the drawbacks. I was looking for it online. I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for, but from what I can see, the topic does say, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? And when that happens, you really should mention what some of those disadvantages are. So I would have liked to see that here, and that's important for your task achievement. So even in here, if you could have somehow incorporated the disadvantages, I mean, there are lots of ways to do it. One of the good ways to do it, one of the better ways to do it, is to have a paragraph kind of talking about some of the disadvantages. And then, then you go on to the next paragraph to talk about the advantages. And then you're like, well, clearly the advantages definitely outweigh the disadvantages. And so that's how I would have done this. Again, it's important to give us the question as it's written so that we can ensure you are developing your answer in an appropriate way. Okay, but there were some things I liked here, some little grammar things happening, but then you had that really nice piece of grammar that was impressive, some really good cohesion here. I liked it. So it was a good attempt overall. Just like I said, concerned about the task achievement portion. Let's take a look at your task 1. Okay, so same thing here. Please make sure that you include the image that you are given. Let's see what you wrote. The pie chart illustrates the popularity of 9 different subjects at school in Germany during 2017. Fine. Overall, PE was the most popular subject in 2017, followed closely by history and math. In contrast, separated by a big percentage, IT represents the one with less popularity among the subjects, and also geography and biology were among the less popular. Okay. It was the one with the least popularity, not the less. Okay. So it's the least popular. That's an important word to use here. I kind of think that this was a little too much information for your overview. You could have said a little less here. I understand that it's difficult. You were probably trying to get to 150 words. I see that you got to 152. You didn't have to do it like this. You really could have just said that PE was the most popular subject in IT. PE was the most popular subject in 2017, while IT was the least popular. And that would have been enough. And then we'll talk about how you could have extended your details here to make it a fully developed essay. Now, I should also let you know that ones like this, where there's not a lot to talk about, they're not that common and they're among the most difficult. So it is a real skill that you should learn how to kind of extend certain details. Let's talk about it. Let's see what you wrote. The subject with the highest percentage of popularity was PE, represented by 22.9% over the period. Then, the second most popular subject in Germany was history, 22.4%. Moreover, subjects such as physics and maths were also popular, represented by 18.1 and 19.4% respectively. All right, this feels really kind of mechanical. You're just going down the row. This had this had that had that. There are other ways to do this. There are things to do with the numbers that make it a little more interesting and that also could have beefed up your word count a little bit. So let me show you what I mean. The subject with the highest percentage of popularity was PE, represented by 22.9% in 2017, not over the period, because it's not a period, it's just that year. So we're a point in time in that year. The second most popular subject in Germany was history, which followed at a mere 0.5% less than PE. Together, the two most popular subjects made up roughly 45% of the total popularity, okay? Or made up just under 50% of the total popularity. Okay, so that's doing something with the numbers. That's kind of emphasizing and that's kind of highlighting just how big these two percentages are together, okay? Then here you could have done something similar. You could have said The next two most popular subjects came in at just under 20% each. More specifically, physics. Let me see. Let's see. More specifically, physics was represented by 18.1%, while maths was somewhat more popular at an additional 1.3%. That's it. Okay. So then, however, some subjects like IT, geography, and technology were less popular, not the less popular. So we say the least, or we say less popular. Okay. And then here I would have put a full stop. And then while geography got 6.4%, you see, look what you're doing. You see, you're combining them into sentences. Whereas what you should be doing in a task like this is really stretching things out. Okay. So they were less popular, full stop. And then I would have said biology was had a mere 7.1%, while the second least popular subject, geography, again, do a little math, came in at 0.7% less. All right. And then full stop. The subject, it's one subject, of IT was the one with the lowest percentage of popularity at 3.7%. That's fine among all 9 subjects in Germany. Now, another thing you could have done here is you could have said something like, interestingly, the most popular subject, and you could say, interestingly, the most popular subject was roughly 6 times more popular than the most popular subject, or the least popular subject. Okay. And so that would have been a really nice way of wrapping things up and just kind of showing and highlighting how these numbers kind of relate to each other. Okay. So that's a nice little tip to learn to talk about, like when you kind of wrap it up. You don't need a conclusion, of course, but it would have been a nice way to wrap it up and kind of highlight some of those figures. Okay. Good job overall. Just keep working at it. You're doing great, and I'll be looking forward to another set from you. Good luck.